So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Bridget McFadden, who is part of ITS Communications. Thanks, Bridget.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Vanessa, and welcome everyone to Tech Tuesday. Thanks for joining us today. Our session today is called Use Your Words, and we're going to talk about how you can analyze your text responses in Qualtrics surveys using Text IQ. Text IQ is an analytic component of Qualtrics that helps you analyze the free text responses you receive when you ask those open-ended text entry questions. Our agenda for today, I'm going to go over just briefly what is Qualtrics. If you're new to the tool and you've never used it, I'll give you a couple instructions on how to get in for the first time. We'll talk about understanding the text analytics process, how to get the right comments, how to create text topics, how to use sentiment analysis, and then how you can take some action on the insights you gain from your text responses. Okay, what is Qualtrics? Qualtrics is an industry-leading survey tool. It's available to all Weill Cornell Medicine faculty, staff, and students. It is powerful but easy to use. You can use it to create, launch, and manage surveys, and it offers you web-based data collection. And by that, we mean you're not downloading an application when you use Qualtrics. You're always going to go to this URL at the top of the screen, weillcornell.qualtrics.com, sign in with your seaweed and password, and then that takes you to the Qualtrics dashboard, which is where you're going to build your surveys, distribute them, and analyze the results. Okay, so let's say we have a large group of people, we have a question we want to ask, we're going to send a survey, and the main point of this survey is really kind of, what are you thinking? There are a couple different ways to figure this out. You could be a psychic with a crystal ball, or you can ask people to respond anonymously on the internet. And I think anyone who's scrolled through the comment section of an article knows that that is where you get the juice. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing when we build free text responses and surveys and then analyze the text that comes in. One of the cool things that happens when you let people offer their opinions in a free text response is you find out things you didn't know before. Text analysis helps drive organizational change by revealing patterns you didn't know existed. And here's kind of a breakdown of what happens in the text analytics process. First, people are providing a comment, and at first read, you're figuring out, okay, what did you say? And then you dive into Text IQ and assign topics to all the responses to really figure out, what did you mean? And then from there, Qualtrics assigns sentiment scores to each response that lets you figure out, how did you feel when you said it? And from there, you can kind of analyze your responses and take some action on the surveys you receive. There are two main questions of text analysis. How am I performing on topics I know about? And what is lurking out there that I didn't even know existed? Why is text analysis valuable? It is less precise, it's more time consuming than other forms of analysis, so why bother? Well, it lets you capture how respondents rate you on things you knew about, and it also allows you to capture patterns on things you didn't know existed. Without text analysis, your survey can only give you information about elements of the customer service experience that you've already defined. But with text analysis, your respondents define what's important, and you can find some unexpected insights. What do you find with Text IQ? You find out what topics respondents care about. You find out what emotions are associated with each topic. And from there, you can quantify open-ended responses and use those in your reports and dashboards so that you can do some statistical analysis on the free text. So one really key thing in getting good text response data is writing the right kind of questions so that you're getting the right kind of comments. Some best practices for great open-ended questions include asking few open-ended questions, collecting additional information, and always testing your survey. Here's an expert tip straight from Qualtrics for writing open-ended questions. So they are, according to Qualtrics, and I think we can probably all agree, open-ended questions are particularly taxing on respondents. In fact, they say 10% of respondents drop off after every open-ended question. So if you're going to do this, how do you make it a little less painful? They advise you to limit your open-ended questions to a maximum of 3 and asking for very specific feedback. Writing a good open-ended question is a balancing act. You want to prompt people to provide useful information, but you also want to give them freedom to respond as they choose. So a couple suggested questions that Qualtrics offers is, what do you like most about our new product? What changes would most improve our product? questions kind of framed like that is probably going to give you a more fruitful text response. Another expert tip for collecting additional information is that open text responses are most powerful when they're put into context. So asking demographic questions like a Likert scale opinion question, and also asking for additional operational data can give meaning to your text responses. So for example, let's say you're distributing a survey at Weill Cornell Medicine and you want to find out how people feel about early morning meetings. You might also ask, what department do you work for? Are you a student or faculty? Where is your primary work or study location? And then when these text responses come in about meetings, you can look at your data and kind of make correlations between, like, oh, are we getting negative sentiment about early meetings from people who work on campus because they're doing this commute? And maybe finding people with a more hybrid situation are more open to early meetings. This is how you're going to help put your text response data as into the bigger picture of the survey you're distributing. An end goal of text analysis is to quantify the text so that it can be used in reports and analysis. And that's going to be more interesting with this additional info. The main goal of any survey isn't simply open-ended responses. It's always part of a larger picture. And remember, even the most well-designed survey should be tested before it's released. Qualtrics has a preview mode, so you can build your survey, and then while it's in preview, send it to your colleagues, test it out. I would advise not only testing, like the look and feel of it for the people taking the survey, but also then go in and look at the data coming in and make sure that you kind of understand what that looks like and how you're going to work with it before you send the survey. I think I've definitely fallen into the trap of like making this huge survey, sending it out, and then the results start to come in and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? What do I do with it? So make sure you kind of practice both the sending and the data side of survey distribution and collection. All right, let's get into text topics, because this text IQ, there's two parts to text IQ. One is text topics, where you're going to assign topics to the text coming in. And then the second part, which we'll talk about a bit later, is sentiment analysis. First of all, for starters, how do I get a text response? So this is when you're building a survey in Qualtrics, when you're creating questions, you have a bunch of different options for the type of question you're building. Text entry is one of them, and that is how you collect a text response. You simply write, this is an example of a text entry question. You type your very simple specific question at the top, and then an essay box appears underneath. You can adjust the size, and that's where your respondent is going to type their answer. So this is an example of a demo survey I'm going to show you in a little bit. Describe the last time you enjoyed a cone in Sunny's ice cream garden. How was it? I actually think I probably could have made this a little bit more precise, but we're going to go with it for now. Where do I find text IQ? So once you're in Qualtrics, the question is, how do I even get to this text IQ analytic feature? You are going to click on the data and analysis tab, and then underneath that, you've got a couple options, and you click on text IQ, and that's how you get to this text IQ tool. Once you click on text IQ, you're going to see a page that looks a little something like this. So in the very middle, you see this search bar. This is where you're going to begin searching for text topics and then creating them. On the left-hand side of the screen, we can see all of our comments that have been tagged with the topic, the ones that are not yet. Underneath that, these are text topics that have already been created. In the very middle, this is a constellation widget. It shows every keyword in the text responses, and the size of the dot is connected to the number of times the word is mentioned in responses. And then the dot's proximity to other dots is based on the likelihood the keywords show up next to each other in a text response. On the right, we've got, this is one way that Text IQ recommends topics for you. And then underneath, you would see a list of all your comments. And I'm going to go into this in a little bit more detail in just a moment. But let's get into what exactly are text topics. Text topics are a way of tagging your text responses. They help you figure out common themes in your responses. And once you set up your text topics and group responses, you can use them in graphs and tables. You can use them to capture topics. You can use them to capture emotion. Qualtrics does make a difference between emotion and sentiment. They consider emotion to be demonstrated in qualifying words like frustrated, excited, and sentiment is more related to how positive or negative the actual response is. And there's a whole, if you want to read further about how they figure out the sentiment of a response, is it positive, neutral, negative. There's a whole kind of science behind how they do that, which is interesting. And that can be found on Qualtrics. They have a really robust training hub called Basecamp. And if you go into Basecamp, you can kind of read up on anything you really want to learn to do in the tool. So there are 3 ways to create these text topics. You can manually search text. And this is where, when you first get into TextIQ, all your comments are going to be on the screen. And you can start by just typing a word or phrase that you might expect to see in the data and see what comes up. And then from there, you can use Query Builder, which can be assisted by Qualtrics. They can kind of show you words they think might relate, or Qualtrics does recognize logical strings built using simple commands. So you can say, summer and winter and boots. You can make these kind of logical strings of phrases to kind of search for more terms in your responses and help you create a topic. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. And you can also use recommended topics. And this is where TextIQ kind of tells you what it thinks would be a helpful topic. This could be helpful if you send a survey and you get like thousands of responses in. The TextIQ recommended topics kind of helps automate the process of generating topics for you. Also, if you ever send a survey and you get thousands of responses, please tell me your secret, because that's kind of the challenge in sending surveys, I think, is getting anyone to take them. Okay, so let's dig in a little bit further into the TextIQ screen and kind of what you're seeing when you first log in. And then from there, I'm actually going to get into Qualtrics and we're going to go through it together. But on this TextIQ screen, so you can see in the upper left-hand corner, this field is the drop-down to analyze which text response you're analyzing. So you can see this as question 1, please provide feedback. So if this is selected, everything else on the screen is going to correspond to the question whose data we're looking at. Right underneath, the menu below lets you search or select different topics to view the responses tagged. You can change topics criteria. You can also check out which responses are still untagged versus the ones that are tagged. And then, if this gray bar, comments without a topic, if you click on that and find a lot of comments that still need to be assigned, then you can go in and kind of categorize them into groups. And then you can see underneath all topics, we've kind of, someone has gone through this data and made different topics, all food, burgers, dessert, workforce. And this is how they're grouping their text responses into these, underneath these different categories. Field 3 is the search bar. This is how you're going to search for terms to build your topics. Underneath, number 4 is the list of responses. When you first log on, this is going to have every response, but then you can use the topics to the left and kind of narrow down what shows. And then I apologize, the right-hand side is a little bit cut off, but you can see the TextIQ recommended topics is at the top of the right hand side of the screen. And then below that is how you get to that little keyword constellation widget. All right, I'm going to move into the demo, and before I do, I'll take some questions, but I'll give you a brief little preview of the demo survey we're going to be working with. This is something I made a couple years ago just to play with this tool. The background for this survey in my mind is this gentleman who's been running an ice cream parlor for a number of years, and he thinks everything is going well, but he wants to make sure his customers are satisfied. And so he hires this young kid who knows all about customer experience and data collection. And the kid says, "Oh, Sonny, you have to send a survey to your customers. That's the only way to find out what they like." And so he puts together this survey with a number of questions. Some of them are collecting some demographic information, and then we have some free text response. And then he's showing it to his boss, and they're kind of figuring out how the customers feel about the ice cream parlor. All right, so I'm going to end the show and then get into my survey screen.
Oh, Bridget, we did have a quick question. If you want.
Great. Yeah, go ahead.
From Sue, if you run a survey for, say, a monthly webinar you have, can you use TextIQ to evaluate surveys over time?
Is that saying, can you, or?
Oh yeah, can you, if you have I guess a lengthy amount of time you have a survey open, would you be able to use TextIQ to just evaluate them as needed?
As they come in, definitely. And that's one of the coolest things it does is I'll show you, there are a couple different widgets showing you text topic over time and text sentiment over time. So you can see, if you initially sent the survey and you were getting a certain type of topic or a certain kind of sentiment, and then you make a change, then you can kind of see, oh, after we made this change, the sentiment improved, or that topic kind of went away. So yeah, doing the survey over time is a great way to use the Text IQ tool.
Awesome. That was the
Does
only
that
one
make
for now,
sense?
if you want to.
Okay, all right, great, great. All right, so let me do another share. Oh, oh wait, I want this one. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay, can everyone see this is the survey preview?
Yep.
Okay, so this, I just want you to see the questions that I'm asking before we look at the data. And this is also the preview thing I told you about, where when you make a survey, you can then look at it in preview mode to test it out. Here's our survey. We're asking, what is your preferred time of day to enjoy ice cream, morning, afternoon, evening? This is not quite demographic information, but it kind of counts. This is how you could make some sort of eventual correlation between, like, do people that come in the morning feel a certain way about their experience that it's different from people who come in the evening? So just another one of those questions that can help you quantify the text responses you get. Second question, what types of flavors do you like? I mean, the most important question you should ask about an ice cream parlor. And then our free text responses, describe your overall experience with ordering an ice cream at Sunny's. Describe the last time you enjoyed a cone at Sunny's Ice Cream Garden. How was it? And then what would most improve Sunny's Ice Cream Parlor? So kind of in the vein of what Qualtrics recommends is a good question. All right, so that's what our survey looked like. And then if I click here into my data and analysis text IQ tab, we're seeing here's a bunch of the response data that has come in. All right, so let's start out by, this is the screen that should look familiar from some of the screenshots I showed you. We've got our responses in the middle. The search bar is how I'm going to search for topics and build them. To the left shows me the topics that are tagged and untagged. These are the topics I've already created. So let's just go through and I'll show you how some of this works. I'll start by just looking for a really simple topic that I've actually already found. This is the question I'm looking at now is question 4. Describe the last time you enjoyed a cone in Sunny's Ice Cream Garden. How was it? So let's say I specifically wanted to know like how they felt about the garden and if they said anything about this garden. Maybe Sunny has some like very beautiful flowers and he wants to know if people are happy about that. I would type in garden as a term, hit enter, and see it showing me now 8 results have this term garden. Excellent. So I'm going to skim through. Oh, this guy says gardens remind him of vacations. Do you know they're everywhere in Rome? It's paradise. Your garden reminds me of my time in Rome. This is really great. He did say there should be more seating, but here I'm seeing that while I have tagged this response with more seating, I actually haven't given it a tag for garden, which would sort it into my garden topic. So to do that, I'm going to click this plus button. And here I've got a couple. Here I've got the garden tag coming up and awesome. So now this response has been tagged under garden and more seating, which is really great. And then you can see I've gone through and kind of already read through my responses, tagged them as garden positive, kid friendly positive, you know, kind of assign them to different topics. This search bar is also where you can build a more complicated search. So let's say I want to look up garden and I want to see if they say anything about the roses. I would use that and to build a more complicated query. Hit enter. And here I've got 2. Okay, cool. So 2 responses mention both the garden and the flowers. If you really want to get fancy with your query building, if you click on this little eye to the right of the box, it gives you the shortcuts for how to build these. So adding double ampersands, dress or suit to kind of do an or, narrow results, broaden. This is your cheat sheet for how to make these more complicated queries. And then also while we're on this page, I'll show you how the topic recommendations work. So let's see, TextIQ has skimmed through the responses and it looks like they think beauty is a pretty good parent topic, which is also going to collect romance, garden, vacation. It looks like there's going to be about 9 comments captured by this. So great, let's click on this and see what happens. It has filled in my search bar with these 3 terms, romance, garden, vacation. And from there, if I didn't want one of these terms, I could delete it, but might as well keep it. That's nice. And then from that, I could hit enter again, and it would show me all these results that kind of match this topic recommendation. From here, you can also, once you've got all your responses tagged, it's probably a good idea to categorize them. You can organize topics by making parent topics and then child topics. So like here, I've already made a parent topic out of kids. And if I click that drop down, you can see I've sorted out comments that are kid-friendly negative, kid-friendly positive. So people have different feelings about like a lot of kids in the garden at Sunny's. Let's go ahead. I'll show you how to do this. Maybe I'll make garden a parent topic. I click on these three dots to the right. And I want to create a new parent topic. Let's say I'll name this garden overall, hit save, and then I can put garden positive into garden overall. And actually, let's even move relax into garden overall because I think that's related. And then I've kind of got all my topics grouped under a parent topic. How do you know you're done tagging topics? So Qualtrics recommends that you want to have 80 to 90% of comments tagged with a topic. And if you could place your cursor here, this is kind of where you see the topics that have been tagged or not tagged. If I click on gray, I've got 9 responses without a topic. Let's see if any of these can be assigned. Yesterday, fantastic. Today, nice, blah, blah, blah. Garden positive, I eat in my car. Okay, so some of these I might say these are not quite relevant. I don't think the information is that great. Let's see if I can add a tag to this one. It was great last summer, but now I have to do social distancing. Try getting your kids to eat ice cream with a mask. You know what, though? This makes me appreciate the simple joy of having an ice cream. Thanks, Sunny. Take care of yourself. Oh, that's actually really nice. Let's add a tag to this. Maybe garden overall. Garden positive. Cool. So that's how you kind of go through and assign topics to your responses. Any questions on creating topics and categorizing your text responses?
No questions on creating topics, but I believe there's a question that you might be addressing later on the diamond symbols that are next
to yep, we're going to get right into that. That is the sentiment analysis. Okay, so cool. Let's we're going to finish up after you make any changes to your topics. Come over here, click review and publish. This is going to show you everything you changed. Looks like I added some topics. I updated a parent topic. Looks good to me. Go ahead and publish your results. And now you can see you got kind of a new dashboard to take a look at. Oh, it's going to take just a moment and analyze my changes. So let's, before I get into this widget, I want to flip back to my PowerPoint and kind of discuss sentiment analysis because that's what you're seeing here. And that's what the diamonds are indicating as well. So bear with me just one moment while I switch screens one more time. Okay, can everyone see the screen that says sentiment analysis?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, what is sentiment analysis? These are the diamonds. This is the process of determining the emotional tone behind a series of words. It's used to gain an understanding of the emotions expressed within a response, and it is another way to make text actionable and reportable. It's useful for prioritizing actions to take, tracking trends over time, so that I think this relates exactly to the question you just asked, if you have a survey open for a long time, and also keeping track of competition if you're in that business. We're not quite, but one of the things that it can be used for. And I'm going to show you actually a good example of how to use sentiment analysis to prioritize actions to take. We're going to go back into the demo survey. But first I'll explain that bubble widget that you're seeing on the screen. This looks different than it looks in the actual Qualtrics application currently. Qualtrics is always updating their UI. So if you, it's something to like keep checking in with the survey application because they're kind of always making improvements. So it looks a little bit different, but the concept is basically the same. This bubble widget shows you the sentiment breakdown of each of your topics. Each bubble represents a topic with a name in the center. The color around the bubble indicates the sentiments for those responses. Qualtrics assigns a positive, negative, neutral, or mixed sentiment to a text response as soon as it's loaded. And that's what you're seeing on the screen. So pink, I think pink is still negative. Mixed is like that purple diamond with a line through the middle. Gray is neutral. And then blue is positive. And then the length of the line is also going to correspond to the number of responses coming in. So like on this screen here, you can see, let's see, variety of content available. The line for positive is longer than the negative one. And that just means more responses are considered to be positive than negative for that particular topic. Let's get back into the demo, and then I'll show you an example in our demo survey. Okay, so I actually want to go to a different question, which is what would most improve Sunny's ice cream parlor? So, let's say we've done this survey. Sunny's intern is now in charge of making an actual difference. So summary screen is going to show me these bubble widgets. And so we're taking a look now at all the responses for what would most improve. And this bubble widget is showing us the topics that we've tagged responses in and also the sentiments related to them. And we can see, so way at the bottom of the screen and with a fair amount of very negative response is this bubble called operational. So what is going on here? What needs to change? And we can see, so some responses have come in kind of negative about payment options and some have come in kind of negative about containers. So if I click on this, again, it gives me kind of a percentage breakdown of the number of comments and the score they've been assigned. If I click on containers again, then I can look through and see all of these responses that have actually come in and been assigned to the topic. And let's see what they say. So they've been asked, what would I most improve? And someone says, could we get different cups? I feel guilty throwing away styrofoam. It never biodegrades. We have to do our part. All right. And then again, these styrofoam cups are bad for the planet. Get some post-consumer paper product or even real dishes. That could be really nice. It could feel like an old-fashioned ice cream parlor. Now that you mentioned, I've always hated using those styrofoam cups. Sometimes I order a cone so I don't have to use one, maybe a different kind of cup. All right. This seems like a very decisive survey response from our customers that maybe Sunny didn't even know that by changing the type of containers he offers, he's going to make the customer experience better. So in this example, this is an example of using sentiment analysis to prioritize an action to improve the customer experience. I think this is kind of low-hanging fruit. He could take care of this and make a positive change. And one way to then measure that, let's say after the change, let's go back to all topics. If you see these graphs right below the bubble widget, text or topic change, that's a tongue twister, and top sentiment change, these are going to look a little weird just because this is a survey I made in 2017 and then kind of every couple of years I answer it again to do this demo. But if you were sending the survey continuously and wanted to kind of measure what topics were coming up and what sentiments were coming up, he could keep an eye on operational and containers as he continues to send the survey and kind of see what direction it's going in. So if he makes the change and then notices that after that, the topic of containers is shrinking or the sentiment is improving, it would kind of be a way to determine whether or not the change he made is beneficial. So maybe people are not mentioning containers, or they say, these new containers are great. This is exactly what we wanted. Thank you, Sunny. And then that would be kind of an indicator of, the change is working. So we've got about 15 minutes. I can take questions, and then I want to show you one more thing about how to add topics and sentiment analysis into your data tab. But are there any questions I can take now?
I don't see any at the moment. So if you want to go ahead.
Great. Okay, so there's one more cool thing you can do. And this is how you can use topics and sentiments in your data collection. So right now you can see I'm in data analysis text IQ. If I click into my data tab, this is kind of where the responses come in. And this might look familiar. It's one way to kind of keep track of your survey results as it's coming in. You can add both topics and sentiment to this. And this would be a way, like we were saying before, to start looking at trends between some of your demographic information, like preferred time of day, and then the sentiment and topics that are coming in, like for that specific group of customers. So to do that, you're just going to go over to column chooser. and then scroll down to embedded data. And let's say I want to add a column for maybe question for topics and also question for sentiment. Let's see what that does. I'll click out of this, and then you can see I've got columns for the topics that I've assigned to question 4, which I think was described the last time you had a cone in the garden, and then also the sentiment assigned. So then all of your responses here in the data tab have that additional column. And then from here, now that you've got that added, you can add filters, create a new filter. Let's say all of the following are true. I might have to do something different. I want to filter out all of the questions that came in that have a positive sentiment for question 4. Let me try that one more time. All right, so we've just made a condition that I want to see filters where the sentiment for question 4 is positive. Apply and save filter. And now you can see in that data tab, it's just showing me people who had a positive experience in the garden. And then from there, I could kind of look and see, okay, what time of day are they coming? Does that have anything to do with it? So that can kind of help you drill down some further analysis of sentiment and topics. Any questions on that piece of it?
Yeah, there's one from Sue. If you want to go back and retrofit a particular question that you have asked in each survey, is there a way to do that in bulk if it's the same question number, or would I just use the filters for that?
So you're saying you kind of want to change the text of the question?
Actually, let me find Sue because
Okay.
it's easier to hear this one on the mics. Sue, I've allowed you to unmute if you want to give a little more context.
Sure, thanks. One of the things that we do on a regular basis is we have a monthly webinar series, and we ask people what topics they would like, and we give them a preset vocabulary, but we also have a free text field saying, suggest something else you'd like us to hear about. So I would kind of like to go back and create more of a straight on map, like we've kind of just been monitoring that. The other field to see if there's anything that we're missing that we could possibly bulk into. And it looked like, I couldn't quite tell from that description if you were suggesting something like that might be done with filters, or if I would actually have to go back and edit each survey to mine that data.
It sounds like, if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like you might need to change the question in the survey.
Okay.
Yeah, which is an easy thing to do. And it sounds like with what you're doing, it wouldn't really disrupt the data you've collected so far. So yeah, you could just go back into the survey and kind of change the wording of the questions.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, of course.
I actually have a question, Bridget, because I used TextIQ somewhat recently, and I liked the widget visualization a lot, but because it's dynamic and you can like kind of hover over them and get extra information, I wasn't sure if there was an easy way to like export those images or any of the widgets or images visualizations that come out in TextIQ. Do you know if you can? Because I haven't been able to find an easy answer.
Yeah, no, that's a super good question. Wait, let's look at this, because I feel like Qualtrics lets you export like almost everything. So I would be surprised if there wasn't a way. You know what I mean? Like usually there's the 3 dots here and it's like export.
Right. And I wasn't sure if like the circular one of the bubbles rather, if they weren't just letting you do it because you can kind of click and it's interactive, but like even the word clouds at the bottom and like the topic changes, I was like, oh, this would be really cool to pop into like a PowerPoint to export the image. And I found that I couldn't, so I wasn't sure if it's maybe just like a feature that's not available yet, or perhaps I'm just looking in the wrong place. So I didn't know if you were
Yeah,
aware.
no, that's a great question. I'll dig around a little bit more because I want to say I would be so surprised if they don't let you do that.
Yeah, for now I was just like, let me
Yeah.
just screenshot it.
Right.
It would be really cool if you could like somehow export like a whole package of the information. But I didn't know that you could add it to the data like as a column filter. So that I think is super helpful.
That's kind of cool too. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not seeing any obvious export things because most of the reports, like if you just go to the reports tab, like you can export
Right.
the
Yeah. I was just kind of baffled. I was like, oh man, maybe I'm just missing something. And I was
No, we're
okay.
gonna go to Basecamp and figure
All
it
right.
out.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions about using TextIQ? Maybe some use cases that you're running into with your own surveys that that Bridget could maybe demonstrate? Just give it a minute. But for any, can we use this in results?
I'll show you what happens in results. I don't think results. Yeah, results is probably what you're used to seeing. Actually, though, let's see what it
Oh,
looks
I
like.
do see topic sentiment score there. So it looks like you can filter some of the information.
Oh yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, sentiment.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe this is one way to I wonder if I can change this to okay, so you could export this as an image and that's the sentiment, but it's not quite as pretty as the bubble.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess the short answer is yeah, you can add sentiment to results.
Very cool.
Yeah.
While we're waiting to see if there are more questions, I just wanted to let everybody who signed in a little late, I wanted to let you know that we are recording this. So if you missed anything in the beginning about how to access TextIQ, we'll be sending you an email with a link to the recording, as well as some really helpful guides from Qualtrics about how to access the TextIQ, how to create the topics, and how to use all of those widgets. What does add visualization do?
Let's find out. Nothing.
Maybe not for that one.
Yeah, maybe
It's weird that it would show you the button and not let you actually make a video.
Yeah.
But typically, Sue, when you see add visualization, what Qualtrics normally does is it will take the data from that question and then give you the option to create like one of 5 visualizations, like a pie chart, a meter, a line chart, like whatever I guess makes sense for that particular scenario. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's kind of going slow. Otherwise, I would show you. I will say too, so there is a great demo. I actually can see on the top of my screen, a demo in Basecamp. It's about 45 minutes called Using Text in Data and Analysis. And I'll send you the link to that video directly. And this is just another, kind of breakdown of how to use the tool to keep on hand. Let's see if that will let us do it. Oh, here we go. So here, if I click add visualization, it pulled up this panel on the left where I can specify data source, metric, and then kind of toggle between what kind of visualization I might want to build. Although it's kind of sticking on bar for now.
Yeah, I find when you're trying to just do anything with the data in TextIQ, it does take a little bit for Qualtrics to think. I think because it's not like an easy thing to measure. It's kind of having to think a little more about the scores and how to format it into the way you need it. So yeah, I think just be a little patient when you're using TextIQ. Is it possible to import results either from another survey or a regular CSV file?
Great question. So import results and then do TextIQ on those results.
I know that you can import results in the Bridget, if you want to scroll up a little bit, like way to the top. If you go to data and analysis, the export import button allows you to import results as right. Yeah, there we go.
Oh,
so you can import data. And there you go. You can just put a CSV or a TSV file. It's giving you a size limit. and you can upload it. You just want to make sure that those columns in your CSV file match up with the ones that are in your survey, so that Qualtrics isn't super confused. And it's like, what do I do with this data? You want to make sure that everything matches up, so the right data is going in the right location.
Great question.
I don't see any other questions, so we could wrap up a couple minutes.
Okay.
But thank you so much, Bridget, for showing us this. This was a really cool feature in Qualtrics.
Yeah, thanks.
And thank you guys for showing up. Hope you have a really good rest of the day. Happy Valentine's Day, that you get some candy out of the day, maybe. And just expect an email later today with some extra info so that you can try using Text ID on your own. So thank you so much. Have a good one.
Bye. Thank you.